Hi everyone, Adam Steele here, mix engineer, and I'm doing another React video. I'm back after a little hiatus of these. I got very busy, and I'm still kind of busy. I'm rendering out a crazy project that you will see very soon. So if you see any kind of frame stutters or anything a little bit while I'm filming this today, that's because I'm trying to film this whilst exporting that major project on the same computer, so apologies. But today's song is Wait and Bleed by Slipknot, from the first Slipknot album, the self-titled Slipknot album, at least, if we're not getting super fan kind of, oh, make, feed, kill, repeat. And yes, anyway, this particular track is from one of my favourite albums, and the mix is like nothing else from that time or since. So it'd be really interesting to dive into this and break it down from a mix perspective, because that's not something I've done before. I really like this album and the way it feels. And now let's try and put some names to the faces, so to speak. So we're using Ozone 10, which isn't doing anything, but if we want to pull out a particular EQ spectrum, we've got that. I've got Adapters Metric AB, which will show me loudness things. It will show me stereo image, correlation, all that kind of good stuff. And I've got Brainworks' BX Control, which is useful for isolating the mids or the sides or one particular left or right side, so we can hear something that's going on and really pick that out. So, without further ado, we'll begin the song, which starts straight away. No counting, no nothing. Here we go.
I felt the air rise up in me, kneel down and clear the stone of leaves. I wander out where you can't see, inside my shell I wait and bleed.
So immediately it's a very strange mix. The vocal is very mid-focused.
I felt the air rise up in me, kneel down and clear the stone.
I'm focusing on 700 Hz there, and it's got a very definite focus there. I wonder if it's a dynamic mic that he was using, because I believe that he used a dynamic mic a lot on this album, because he was doing a lot of running around the studio screaming, which makes a lot of sense. It cuts out more bleed being quite close. The bass is so chunky. It's got this kind of harmonic in there. So we've got the 100 Hz kind of thing, but we've also got this almost 200 Hz. Listen.
I felt the air rise up in me, kneel down and clear the stone of leaves. I wander out where you can't see, inside my shell I wait.
And there's one guitar off to the right hand side, which isn't particularly loud in this section. And there's a hi-hat right down the middle, just tss.
I felt the air rise up in me, kneel down and clear the stone of leaves. I wander out where you can't see, inside my shell I wait and bleed.
Which suggests to me that maybe they didn't use a spaced pair of drum overheads. Maybe it was XY to keep it out of the way of the drummer who was going crazy. And also probably not using a gate on the snare if he really was cranking on the snare. So the hi-hat's coming through there, which pulls it to the center a bit more, which is really quite common. I'm finding more and more that the hi-hats don't sound as panned as you would think they should on a lot of stuff, and it makes more sonic sense as a timekeeper. But yeah, this is going to kick in here.
I wander out where you can't see, inside my shell I wait and bleed. I felt the air rise up in me, kneel down and clear the stone of leaves. I wander out where you can't see, inside my shell I wait and bleed.
So immediately a really weird mix. There's very little in the way of drum overheads, because it's got that very harsh, maybe a china or something keeping time.
I felt the air rise up in me, kneel down and clear the.
Lots of toms, lots of close mics on that doo-doo, doo-doo, but not the full complement of all the other guys in Slipknot yet.
I felt the air rise up in me, kneel down and clear the stone of leaves. I wander out where you can't see.
And the vocals opened up, it's doubled, so we can hear there are two in the same place, and it sounds bigger. So what I think has happened is the second vocal, they've just let more room reverb sound in.
I felt the air rise up in me, kneel down and clear the stone of leaves. I wander out where you can't see, inside my shell I wait and bleed.
And now we get to what I would call a classic Slipknot sound, which is having one guitarist per side. We've got someone on the left. It's not Jim Root, it's the original guitarist, probably on the left going jigga jigga jigga, while I'm thinking it's Mick Thompson on the other side is doing the more complicated riff. And there's also a DJ scratch right down the middle, which we can hear in the mids. So that's very distorted and has no noticeable low end in that scratch, which will stop it from muddying up the mix. So instead of going whoop, 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 it's going. So it's probably quite a high pitched sample to begin with, but also probably through a guitar amp or something, and with a lot of the low end cut out. Either that or the sample itself was quite distorted to begin with. And then we get into classic Slipknot stuff. That kick is so tight without being sampled. It's going ba 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 ba. And another thing that I can hear in there that's worth listening is if you listen to the vocal, it's actually two vocals. One's really angry and kind of screamed, and the other one is much cleaner but sat underneath. It's hard to pull that out of a mix, but as a right angle, the air is standing straight up. This is not the way I picture me. I can't control my shakes. How the hell did I get here? Something about this so very wrong. I have to laugh out loud. I wish I didn't like this. Is it? There we go. Can you hear it now? No, I've taken the guitars away by taking the sides out. Yeah, something about this so very wrong. I have to laugh out loud. I wish I didn't like this. Is it a dream or a memory? And then we get to the chorus. I thought we had an intruder in the house. It turns out it's just the cats climbing on everything. Onward. So, yeah, there was talking about the vocals. I happened to know that before I went looking for it. I'm kind of cheating here because there was another mix of this song done by Terry Date, and he really brought the sung vocal further forward to make it more palatable, I think, for cleaner audiences. I don't think it worked. But there it was, and it was way more obvious. So when I went back to the original mix, I could definitely very clearly hear a lot more of that scream sing blend. I think that's a single vocal, but if it is, it's got a room reverb and a slap on it to make it sound almost doubled. If I bring the sides out, you can hear a bit of vocal there, which is either a stereo reverb or a stereo track of some kind. And also they've elevated the mix there by having one guitar do the chords but the other do a kind of a top line with a wah, so it's going wow, 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 which became later on quite a signature Slipknot sound, I think. If we just saw the right hand side, you can hear that guitar is do 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 do, which is the same as the bass line, which kind of makes it a main melody, whereas the left hand side really takes center stage because it's sharper, it's higher, it's kind of in front of you from a sonic perspective. And so that's using arrangement to determine a mix, because one's much lower and mimics the bass and one's much higher. They could be the same volume, but the one that's higher and is sharper will stick out to you. Get out of my, I guess I don't need this, what did it? And that little breakdown there, you could hear the scratching again, just filling that space.
Get out of my, I guess I don't need this, what did it?
And now we get to the really aggressive kind of middle 8 pre-chorus, and now we can hear the percussion section.
I guess I don't need this, what did it? I say this, but I'm a victim.
Now this was years before a song like Duality really brought that kind of keg or like aluminium percussion or whatever to the forefront of people's minds, but this was already a signature part of the Slipknot sound.
I guess I don't need this, what did it? I say this, but I'm a victim and so where you're gonna die. I have sinned by just breaking my mind up and taking your breath away. I felt the air as I've been leaning down, clear the start of me. I wonder how well you can see inside the shell I wait and bleed.
I don't know how they've done it, but the ride on this section is so clear with that ping, even though the crashes don't overwhelm.
I felt the air.
That must have been an extra under ride mic as well as the overhead. So the overhead's all been quite low in the mix and the ride was pushed up there.
I felt the air as I've been leaning down, clear the start of me. I wonder how well you can.
Could you hear there? The crash was almost non-existent, but the ping on the ride is super clear.
Down, clear the start of me. I wonder how well you can see inside the shell I wait and bleed. I felt the air as I've been leaning down, clear the start of me. I wonder how well you can see inside the shell I wait and bleed.
And interestingly, you can hear how the performance is kind of live off the floor. At least one of those ride hits then was almost missed, or at least not perfect.
I felt the air as I've been leaning down, clear the start of me. I wonder how well you can see inside the shell I wait and bleed.
And then this section, the hi-hat is so low and so dark, but the guitar takes over. And that kind of breathing vocal is brought really high up as a kind of a feature again. That's the left side. And you can hear the bleed on that of probably the guitar in the room while he was doing the performance. And so this section here, you can hear the guitar on the right is carrying the rhythm. And here all three, bass, guitar, both guitars are doing the same thing, which I think is the first time in this song that they're all doing that. While there's a single, very heavily distorted vocal, but without much top end on it to really make it sound brutally aggressive. And now you can very clearly hear a scream vocal and a sing vocal on top, and the kick drum pattern has changed to be just solid 16ths, just to really start to amp up the energy here.
I felt the air as I've been kneel down and clear the stone of bliss. I wonder how well you can see inside the shadow wait and bleed. I felt the air as I've been kneel down and clear the stone of bliss. I wonder how well you can see inside the shadow wait and bleed. And the waits for you.
Those screamed vocals are so distorted. Let's just see if I can isolate that last one a bit. If that's distorting through the console, then that's got to be way too much gain, and then the top end really reduced down so we don't get a fizzing sound. Let's see if we can isolate a bit of that. That is really distorted. I mean, but if we go back to that chorus, can you hear how clean, not distorted that sung vocal is on top comparatively to the heavily mid-range focused distorted scream? Let's see if I can kind of duck out a little bit of the distorted vocal. How am I going to do that? So let's bring up the controls. See if we can change this to mid-side mode. And so mid only. Let's see if I can find that distorted 1K thing. And just make it quite particular. There we go. That's how heavily 1K distorted that vocal is. By dipping several dB out at that 1K, the sung vocal kind of stays. So there's a good tip for all of you if you're trying to get an angrier distortion, an angrier scream on a screen vocal than you currently have. Try really, well, distort it a lot first, but then really focus on the 1K region, really bring that out with an EQ and take a lot of the high end away and see where that gets you. It will sound weird until your ears adjust. But in a context like this, it could be exactly what you need. Especially when you've got other elements in the mix that balance that superly kind of mid-focused thing. It will make it sound louder, so make sure you volume balance. But that could well be a part of what was that signature sound for Slipknot at that time. I know they don't do it quite so much these days, which kind of, it's a more modern Slipknot sound. But there you go. Hope you found that interesting. I certainly did. Thank you everybody for watching, and hope you tune in for the next one. The next one is going to be Sabotage by the Beastie Boys. So I hope you are around on Friday, and if you're watching this after the fact, then look on the playlist, give us a subscribe, hit the like, all that kind of good stuff. It's massively appreciated, and thanks to our patrons on Patreon, because you really help us to do all this, and it's massively appreciated. So thank you everybody for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.